Welcome everyone. I'm going to be starting here, not too detailed, but probably a series of two, maybe three videos going over the process of how I build a VASSAL module. I'm a big believer in VASSAL. There's also a tabletop simulator. I've been building VASSAL modules for a while. Um, I'm more a function over form person, so I get all the stuff I need to actually play the game, and then I don't deep dive and try and jazz it up some more. I'm not downplaying that. There's a lot of people who build VASSAL modules. They're real detail, a lot of automation. I'm more just, get the basic game functions going and get into the game. And I also do, along with my own personal use, I do build playtest VASSAL modules for a number of companies to support their playtesting of upcoming games. So in this case, just to give you an example of how I build a VASSAL module, I'm going to use Island of Death by Avalanche Press. Very recently did a virtual unboxing of it, or a digital unboxing of it. You can go back and review it to get to the background on this game here, but I'm going to use this as my vehicle to illustrate the process I use to build a VASSAL module. Now, obviously, the first question you should ask is, has somebody already done it? No sense reinventing the wheel. I mean, maybe somebody's already done it and it's great. You don't need to build it. Or somebody's already done it, and I've done this a few times, and I've popped in and edited the module, customized it and added to it, or updated it, if there's changes to the game. So the first question is, did somebody already build this? Well, first place I go is the company website. A lot of times the company website for the game, other companies will have links to the VASSAL module if it exists, or show you where it is. Now there are two main sources, so you could probably skip that process and go there first. But in the case of Island of Death, we see there is nothing here about VASSAL Mod. There's some articles here, some example counters, a small map. I probably can't use that graphic for the map. And reference to, there's two other, as you saw in my previous video, there's two other expansions to this. They're all digital, so that actually fits into our process of building a VASSAL mod. But check the publisher website. No reference. I guess you could send them an email, but I would first go to your first place to find VASSAL mods, of course, is vassalengine.org. And that's where you can get the program too. And you just come over here to the modules, and you can sort by all sorts of things. Here they've just got a list of games. You could just go by the game. It's in alphabetical order, and go from there. So I could go to the eyes and look for Island of Death, which I'm going to be kind of embarrassed if it's there. And Power of the Alphabet, that's always the hardest part here. Island of D. Nope, that's not the game. Okay. Now another way, just to make sure, is I could also sort by publisher. And then I'd go to Avalanche Press, if they're even here. There they are. Defiant Russia, got that. John Prado's Third Reich. And Red Vengeance, that's the other module that goes with this one. It's kind of a one mapper of the Russian campaign here. But I definitely don't see Island of Death here, so I'm coming up short for already pre-made VASSAL module. Now the other one, the other big one, beyond just a Google search at this point, where the publisher website is Limey Yank Games, and they do support multiple. Here we see Cyberboard, that's a precursor to VASSAL, I think. Yeah, I remember using that. That's kind of old. Then here's VASSAL modules, and then there's another one called Sun Tzu, which I've dabbled with. I've used it actually to get graphics for other games, but that's another one you could look at. And of course, there's Tabletop Simulator that you can get in Steam, which has lots of modules for it. I may pull that up later. Focus here is actually building a VASSAL module, but that's another place you can go, Tabletop Simulator, to find these. And then I'd look for the game, and that's kind of hard here. We do see they list all the new ones. I think they only list these in alphabetical order, so I would click on VASSAL here. And then, yeah, it does. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Oh, the software for VASSAL. Yeah. And then it goes through here, and they list the publisher and who made it. So I would just have to start guessing where the I's start here. I'm only on the D's. Let's go to 7. But you're seeing a lot of games here. Ides of March. Invade. Island of the Damned. Well, that's not quite it. But I think we're drawing up short. Now, actually, I use this one for Library of Napoleonic Battles. And we also see La Bataille, or I always call it Labat, which I'm hoping to get into. So they've got some modules here. Actually, I think I just picked this one up. Okay. So again, don't reinvent the wheel. Actually, this is where I got the module where I did the Quatre Bras scenario of Napoleon's Last Gamble that I did a few months back. So this is a great source for Vassal mods too. But again, I'm coming up short. There is no Vassal mod, so what I have to do... Now, you can go to the BGG forum for the game too, and there may be some references of it there. I think I got that up. Yep, here we go. And, oh, well, that's good prices. This must be new. Okay. So, if you want to get a copy, it's good times. $30. There you go. And there's my unboxing video if you want to look at it. But I'll come here and I'll see 40-page rulebook. Oh, there it is. There is a Sun Tzu if you want to do that. Good deal. Download here. Don't know where that is. But again, I'm building a Vassal module. That's been out since 2012. You could look at that. Sometimes I've posted Vassal modules here too. But not much going on here. And we're going to use this site though for something else soon, so I'll keep this up. And another place you can go for resources for a game is the files section. A lot of times you have to expand it, but tables, rules. I could look at that. Counters, breakdown, aid chart. You know, I could incorporate this in my Spanish. Taking a risk here. Oh, that's interesting. I could look at this. There's only one page, so I think it's just focusing on the axis here. Again, I could incorporate this in the Vassal mod if I wanted, so potentially look at that, but let me go back. Okay, so I've done my initial research. I'm not finding it. I can always do a Google search too. And again, if it's in Tabletop Simulator, it's Sun Tzu. In this case, there is one. It looks like it's 8, 10 years old. I could pull it down and look at it, but the other thing I can look at is I can get resources. I may show that later too. Okay. But bottom line at this point, I don't have anything to use that's already pre-existing. So I'm going to have to build it myself. So the first step before even touching Vassal is I have to get the materials for it. And when I say materials, I need map graphic or graphics. If there's more than one, I need the counter sheets graphics, normally both back and front. Potentially I'm going to need the charts because you can incorporate those into the Vassal module. And I do need the rules, and I scan the rules. I do everything electronically now. I don't necessarily read stuff paper or book. I just do it on my tablet. But that's personal preference. If you've already, like I already have the rules physically, you know, if I wanted to use those, but I've scanned them too. But what I need to do is get the map, the graphics, and the charts. Now, if I'm building a mod for somebody, they're going to provide me that, and that's awesome. I'm off to the races. But if I'm not, I'm going to have to figure out where to get it from. So I could go to the manufacturer website, but I'm clicking on this. There's no zoom on this, and I could save the image, but I can already tell I'm not going to get much out of this. So the other place I can go, and this is a good place to go, again, is the BGG site for the game. And a lot of people will do this. You're lucky if they do. If you go to the images section, I can look at this, and somebody did some solid, like I can't really use this scan. It's kind of a picture. But they actually did some counter sheet scans. This one's a little off, unfortunately. And then I'd look for map. Oh, here's a map. Let's see what it looks like. See, that's not going to work. It's not detailed enough, okay? But sometimes you'll come here and they've done it. They've done the scans. And basically all you have to do, if you want like sheet 1, click here, always click again, and it's still got a plus, so click again, and this is the best I'm going to get. And in my mind that's doable, short of me manually scanning the counters, which apparently is what happened here, but somebody's already done it and it's big enough, I'm good to go. Okay. Then I got to make sure it's complete. I know there's 2 counter sheets and back. And we do see sheet 1 back. Good deal. Sheet 2 back. Not quite sure what this is. That doesn't look as good. This looks like he's giving an example of bad printing by the publisher here. So, and coming back here, I think there's a slight problem with sheet 2. Yeah, it's a little off-center. But my graphics program, I can probably play with it and straighten it out. So this is okay, and it looks the same size as the other one, but we can solve that too. So we're good. I have counter sheets now. This is what I'd use. Again, my fallback is hopefully the game's counters are still in the tree and you can scan that. But I still have the problem of the map. But I did want to show you one thing. You know, this is a case, here's a case, and if you saw my previous video, and you did see in my C-Power in the State Vassal mod, I used the original counters, which are 1980s, but I popped here, and this is just a preview, but it was actually good enough. You click, well, I got to click the zoom here, and always try and zoom, and there. And this got me 100 by 100. This was good, and this is better than the original counters in that game. So I converted to that. So sometimes previews by the publisher will have the info, and even the maps are good. This is a European blow-up map. And notice I can say, yeah, it's solid. Solid. So in this case, the publisher's website provided me the graphics. And in my case, this is a special case. I've got the older game, and I'm just leveraging these graphics in the older game in my Vassal mod, if you've been watching those videos. But now I have the counters. I have... but what I don't have is I still don't have the map and the charts. So this is where I had to kind of do it manually. So here are the counter sheets I downloaded. Here's the rest of the stuff. Now I prefer to scan stuff, so I did scan the rules. Now I could scan the map myself. Unfortunately, I only have 8.5 by 11 scanners, and then you end up doing kind of, you know, scanning it in pieces and trying to put it together, which it's okay, but I do have an office, I don't know what you call it, an office store or whatever, and they do large-scale scanning. And this wasn't too large, but I just took it down there and said, please just scan the map, and boom. And they like to do PDFs. And here's the good thing, I'm only at 50%. So if I take it to 100, yep, this looks good, and if I wanted to make it bigger, that's doable. Totally doable. Interesting graphics colors. Now, the only thing over this versus a pure graphics file is this was an actual map, so I am kind of getting some of that map folding, and even if it's going through, you know, a scanner that scans it. But this, you know, when worse comes to worse, if I've got a game and I can't find a graphic of the map anywhere, which normally you can actually nowadays, but in this case, this game I couldn't, I went ahead and just took it down to my office shop and had them scan it in. Now the charts, this game has a lot of charts, okay, so I did manually scan these myself, and they don't have to be perfect. And again, I can incorporate these in the Vassal mod. And you know, and each of these I'd pull out separately. We'll see in the Vassal mod if I get to that step and make it its own point. But I manually scanned all of the charts here. So the other thing I want to show you is, yeah, always one other place to check is I scan the rules, but you know, if you have the physical rules, but a big part of a Vassal mod, maybe at least not initially, but you know, you got to read all the rules to figure out some of the functions that you have to incorporate. But the big thing I like to do is go for this, the components. So I have rules, I have a map, 7 cards with charts and tables, which I have, and 380 die-cut playing pieces. Good. So at this point I'm in good shape. I've got the map scanned, I've got the charts and tables scanned, and I've got scans for the counters. So I have all the raw materials. Now there is some prep for these materials you have to do. So we go through that. Now before I actually build a Vassal module, I at least want to work through the rules once to identify any things. A common thing is like, you know, randomization cups, etc., like that, so I can incorporate that into the game. We'll see later you can build that, but I have everything I need now to build this. So what I need to do is I need to prep these materials, and initially the big two are the counters and the maps. Okay, and here I've actually got the counters. I'm just looking at them here, and I can zoom in to see. Yeah, this is a manual scan. Not ideal, but it's doable. Ideally, either a better scan from BGG or, you know, maybe the publisher has it, or I'm going to pull down that Sun Tzu module, and there's ways to export the graphics out of that and see what the counters look like for that. So that's a possibility. Glad I went to Lima Yankee. But this is not my program of choice. Now you got to, in my mind, clip the counters. Now other people may have automated ways. There's ways in Vassal to actually build these from the ground up with parts. I never spent the time to figure that out. I just go through and scan them. Now I can already see that these are going to be straightforward. I only have to make one of these, then one of these. See how they don't have designators, but where they do have designators, 1D, 1D, I'll have to make separate ones. It varies from game to game. Take a look at it. I only have to make one of these. You know, I still got to get the flip side. And you got to do that analysis too. Look at the back side too. Get a feel for, you know, some backs don't have actual counters. Let's take a look at the back side and think of our work there here. So I'm going to counter sheet 1 back. Oh, that's good. I don't have to worry about back sides for these pieces. And only some of these pieces have back sides. And some of these pieces, it's just a question mark. It's not unique to the unit. So we'll see later there's a way in Vassal to make a proto definition and say just put these on the back. The Germans all have back sides. And then we got markers. I could put the markers on separate, or I could put them on the back. Let's see, yeah. See, I don't have to make it the way they do it. I don't have to make my counters where necessarily, well, I got Z disrupted, so it may make sense to do that. Out of ammunition, out of supply. Yeah, it does make sense probably to make these flip counters, where instead of having them as separate, I right click and just say flip. Again, I need to read the rules to figure this out. But the next thing I need to do, the kind of the grunt work here, for a lot of games, depending on the counter density and how unique the counters are, the grunt work is clipping out the counters here. So my program of choice, you can use whatever you want. I do have access to Photoshop, but I got GIMP open source, you know, GIMP, G-I-M-P. Google it. I think there's a version for Mac too. I haven't looked. I just use GIMP. It's free. It's open source. I don't have to worry about my license for Photoshop or anything like that. And again, I'm a minimalist. I figure out what I need to do in GIMP, and then I do it. Now, I don't need these actually. I'm not going to be using this. So let's say we want to take counter sheet 1, and I do open with GIMP. You can open GIMP, say file open, or however you want to do it. GIMP isn't going to be your default, so. But I'll just click GIMP. Okay, and this is a JPEG. So I can't do, let's pull it over here. Yeah, these are my files. Now the first thing I want to do to make sure these are big enough is I want to make sure I'm at 100%. If they weren't, I would push my luck and go to 200 and say that's still acceptable, but I don't have to do that. I'm going to go back to 100. I'm just making a determination here. Now this is a view. If I did decide to go to 200, I'd actually have to scale it there, which is another command here. Image scale. This is where if you want to make something bigger, you can do it by this, or sometimes if it's too big, I've found I've had to reduce this, and I kind of go for percentage over pixel, because this number is giving it for the whole counter sheet. It's not telling individual counters. So I like to do percent here. But let's take this back to 100% because this will accurately show me how big it will be. And now my first determination is, I have some thumb rules. Here are the big. And here are the big two commands right here in GIMP. This is select and this is move around. And I use both of these. Those are the big two. So I'm in select now. And I just guesstimate it. I come here, I click, and I cover the counter. And I look down and I'm at about 86, but very bottom of the there. It was down here, but you don't see it. I don't know about 86. That's pretty small. You know, I may want to pop this up a little, but then I have to make sure I do it with every counter sheet. So let's see how we would do that here. So I'll just show you. I can go image, scale image, and I'm just going to guesstimate it here. I'm going to go 125. Tab key, it's locked, so they'll get the same here. And then I go scale. Now, if you don't like it, you can just hit Control Z. But let me see. I'll just pick an example counter and see what I get. Okay, that's better. It's 100. 105 by 105. I like to go for round numbers if I can get 100 by 100. That's 100 by 101. Let's get it perfect. I'm an OCD here. There we go. So now I got 100 by 100. I'm going to shift over to movement. And now I can move this around and see if that's enough of the counter. So I need to record this. I need to remember that I did a scale of 125 and I'm going for 100 by 100. Jot that down, put it in Notepad. But that's your key. I actually scaled this. I'll scale the back one to 125 and go for 100 by 100, etc. So I'm going to click over here and write that down. I scale 125, and then size ends up being 100 by 100. Try not to go above, you know, sometimes you'll get high quality, it'll be really big. I try not to definitely go above 150. I try and, you know, 120 by 120 is probably as big as I want to go. Because that then increases the size of the file, the graphics. You know, it's a personal preference. I've seen modules come down at 200 megabyte, and it could be because they're doing high res. It's, again, your preference. All right, and then here I use keyboard commands. I could do edit, you know, copy, whatever. So I've got that highlighted, and edit, copy, and then I think it's Control-Shift-V to make a new one here. File, new, create. From clipboard, Control-Shift-V. That just makes my life faster if I know the commands. This one, first one I'll do with the commands, which I don't normally do. So I've got my file, and I only have to make one of these battalions because they're all the same. And I don't know, you know, what exactly is the side. I don't know what, they're not the Germans. I believe they're the British, to be honest. I'd have to look. See, that's another, yeah, there's a Matilda. So that's the Brits. So you highlighted your counter. You're in arrow mode. You can move it around. And I get it just the way I want it. It's a little low on the numbers. And I don't really want the sprue, so this is good. So I can do edit, copy, and then, and I wouldn't do it through the keyboard, I mean through the menu here. This is kind of a pain. But Control, yeah, this is going to create a new one. Poof. And there's my counter. Not great, but hey, for a function over form person, not into aesthetics, good enough, okay? And then the next thing I've got to do is, and in this case this is weird, you don't want to do a save as, you'll get some of the project format for GIMP. I do an export. And then it goes to recently used. There's Island of Death. And I'm just going to create a folder, call it images. And I'll create a new folder and call it British. However you want to organize these. And then I got to come up with a naming scheme. And remember, your naming scheme sorts on that when you look at the file. So I put BR dash. This is just an infantry battalion. I don't know what the 4 means. I'll have to look that up. And then, oh, going in the wrong place here. I don't know why it goes there. So I'm going to say BR because I want to sort by nationality. In this case, I'm going to sort by type, infantry. Now, if it was the 5th battalion, I'd put 5 battalion or whatever information, but now it's just a generic infantry battalion, and this is the front. Now, it's entirely possible this has no back, but it's just naming. I mean, I just want to be as explicit as possible. Now, the key thing I do here is you got formats you can save as, and the way you pick it in GIMP is you just type the extension at the end. And in this case, I'm going to do a PNG file. You could do JPEG, they're smaller. But I'm going to show you here in a second a way to kind of make the counter look more like a counter where you bevel the edges and get a corner. And you can't do that with a JPEG. You need to do it in PNG. So I'm going to save this as a PNG. And I don't mess with this. And now I should have my first file for this game here. And then I can close. And I don't know where that is. Close all. No, I want Control W. Close view. Boof. Oh. Yeah, I don't want to. This is if you want to save it in their format. I've got the image. And now making more of these just kind of resolves to. And you hold out. Notice if I just use the. I'm using the arrow keys here. Up, down, left, right. It's moving the counter sheet. So it's kind of opposite. But if you want to go faster, hold down the Shift key. So if I'm doing British and I got a generic infantry battalion, 1D. I don't know what the 1st Division? 1D, 1D, 2D. I'm going to have to figure out this order of battle here. It's not obvious. But here's why it goes faster. I need to copy it, Control C, Control Shift V, and then Control Shift E. 3. Control C, Control Shift V, and then Control Shift E for export, I'm pretty sure. And did I get this wrong? I'm forgetting. I think 2 lines is a battalion, my bad. But in this case, I click here to get the same name. But looks like S, 1D. I'm going to have to figure out their criteria. But let's call it 1D. It's the 1D battalion front. And I'm just going to hit Enter. Control W. Discard with an arrow key. Go. And if you just use your keyboard here, that is an S. I'll have to look up what the R means and what the 3. So I would have read through the rules before this. And these are companies. I think one line is a company. So I'll do one more here. Oh no, let's do the exciting one here. Although it doesn't give me a size. I'll do the Matilda. Okay, again, Control C, Control Shift V, Control E. It looks like Control E works too. And, you know, if I'm building, I can click on this and do the name again. So this is, click on this one, but I won't call it infantry. I'll call it armor. And I'll call it, it's the 1R, whatever that is. Yeah, that's all I need to make it unique. Hit enter, enter. Okay. Now, let's see where I'm at. I'm at 29, so I'll draw this to a close here. Now, one other thing I have to do, I have to get the map prepped, and I'm kind of jumping the gun. I could just crank now on the counters, get all done. I've got them at 100 by 100. But I also have to make sure the map is properly scaled to the size of the counters. Oops. So I'm going to come back here. I like it like it goes in the middle. I'll go to my map, and you can actually, I think I can right-click. Here's my map, and GIMP's here. But you can also go with GIMP and do a file open and go find it. I just want to work off of the this. So I'm going to right-click, open with GIMP. Now, if you got a PDF, you got to make a decision here. Number one, if it's a lot of pages, you're going to have to pick the page. Probably show you that in the charts, okay? Although I'm probably not going to do the charts that way. But in our case, there's only one page for this PDF. And so therefore, I'm going to come down here. The one thing you have to decide is what resolution to pull it in. That's too small. I can always scale it in GIMP, so I'm going to jack up the resolution at least to, well, not 2000, but 200, okay? If it's still not good, you can pull it in at 300, but I'm going to pull it in at 200. So that's a big thing. If you got the counters in PDF, you're going to have to think about this too. So whenever you pull into GIMP something, you got to ask the resolution. And like I said, I wouldn't go below 200. I'd rather be over resolved than under because I can manipulate it in GIMP. So I'm going to import it. And hopefully it doesn't crash GIMP on the process here. I did click it, didn't I? I don't have it already open, do I? Okay, we're back, and I didn't crash it. Alright, here's the map. Now, again, the first thing I've got to look at is, well, I'm at 33%. Yeah, I did pull it in over resolution there, but that's fine. I can bring it down. So I'm going to take my example counter here. I'm going to do a, well, you can do a select all, that's a control A. Then you're going to do an edit copy, which is a control C. And then you're going to go to the other one and paste it with a control V. Okay, so again, I'm going to do a select all to make sure I select this whole counter, control A. Then I'm going to copy it, control C. You can do this from the menu. Then I'm going to pop over here and do a paste or a control V. Okay. You know, this is interesting. The game itself has oversized hexes, so the question is, that would do it, okay? But if I don't like this, I'm going to have to scale the map. So I'm going to do Control Z, that's the universal undo, because don't leave the counter there, because if you get it the size you want and you forgot the counter images there, that'll stay on the map. I've done that a few times. But let's say I think it's a bit too big. So I'm going to go to Image, Scale, and you can just kind of wing it. I'm on percent, and it's too big. Let's take it down to 80. Let's try that. Scale. And then we do Control V. Okay. You know, I may settle for that. But here's the thing. If you don't like that, hit Control Z. Make it disappear. And if you get Control Z one more time, you're back. So let's say I said, no, I want it to fit perfectly. So I'm going to go back and scale it to 75. That's a small tweak. And then I do a Control V because it's still on the clipboard. So maybe I leave this. I'll have to check the stacking limit. Okay. But again, that's the process now to get your map ready to scale it. This is what I use to scale it. So let's say this is it. I like it. Get that Matilda off there. Control Z, Control Z. You could just delete it, but I'm a fan of Control Z. And now you just got to export this thing, because I don't want to save it as there. You've always got to export to get the JPEG or the PNG. And in this case, I'll just call it Island of Death map. And sometimes I drop this in to remember. Did I scale it? I scaled it to 75. I put it in the name to help me remember. But then I don't want to save it as a PDF. The map, I don't need to manipulate it. PNG, I don't need it. VASSAL will handle PNG and JPEG. I don't know what other graphics. Those are the two I use. So I'm going to make this a JPEG. And then you got some choices. Sometimes I do play with the quality to reduce the size. You know, you need to look at it though and see if you like it and go back. And then you're done. I'm going to click export. And that bar went pretty fast, so that map size is good. So at this point, I have the map. I have the counters. Let's say I've cranked through this. Actually, I got it cranked through 4 times. Both fronts, all of them, but there's some duplicates, so that cuts down time. And then the backs where it applies, make that 2. Okay. So I make all the counters. I size the map to the counters, to whatever I prefer, like you just saw. Now, there is one more step here. I want to make the counters, and these counters they're not great, but they're okay. Let's look at this again. So if I come over here, yeah, the scan quality is okay. That's okay. But now I'm going to use a tool, and you can go download this and add it to GIMP. I hope it's installed. Yeah, batch image manipulation. That's an add-on. You got to go out to the website and get it. But I open that up, and it's kind of its own separate program here. And I never know what screen. Here we go. So let's see. I want to check my settings here. Put everything in OneNote. Yep, that's what I want. That's cool. I don't know who told me. I remember I saw some people made a VASSAL mod, and I said, how do you get the bevel in the corners? And they said, oh, it's just this function in BIMP, batch image process. And I was like, oh, I could have had a V8, But it's pretty straightforward. I just add what I want. So I come down here, I just click here, and I say other GIMP procedure. And you just search for it. First thing I want is a bevel on the edge of the there, and I set it. And for 100, my default numbers are good. Set this to 5, but you can up that. Click OK. And then, so that's the first thing it's going to do. And I'm going to add one more thing. I want those cool corners, like you got those clippers. This way you can clip all your corners once immediately. Just let the computer do it. And my default for that is 10. Now, if you got bigger counters, you can jack this up. Take it to 15. Take the other one up. You play with it. Do whatever you want. And the blur is going to be 10. These are my defaults. Okay, so now I got the 2 things I want to do. Cool thing here I've seen is you can do all sorts of other stuff. See, and what this does is that you point it at a bunch of files and you say, do this. They can crop them, flip or rotate, color correction, etc. And then you got all these other procedures you could explore. So it's pretty cool. And then I just need to add the images. I could add single images, or I could add a folder. And because if I've got all my counters in a folder, I'm good to go. So in this case, I click recently used, go to British, and here are my 3 files. Now I could have added these as single files, but so that's what I want to do it on. But the other critical thing is, where do you want to output it? Now, it's got the same name, so I haven't tested this. My guess is if you don't change it from this, it's going to overwrite them. It takes less space, but I want to keep my originals just in case. So I go to Island of Death, Images, British, and I'm going to create a folder, and I just call them clipped. And now I'm in the clipped folder. So this means when it does the process, it's going to output it here. Click OK. And then you just go. This shouldn't take too long. 1, 2, 3. If you have a lot of files, yeah, it could take a little while. The other thing is, don't close this right away. If I've done this right and I've got folders full of other files, now I just remove and go add, but don't forget to change the clip directory over here too, to the right one there. And I don't have to recreate these again, so maybe keep these up. But in our case, this is done, and I'm curious to see the results based on the quality of the originals. So that's the originals. Well, there, you got bevels, you got little corner clips. It's nicer. The graphics could be sharper. Now, if you know what you're doing in GIMP or whatever, you can play with sharpening it, etc. But again, I'm function over form. I can get this quality is acceptable to me because I'm mainly going to use it for my playing. Maybe I'll upload it. And yeah, and these look good. And now these can go on the map. I mean, if you want to see what they look on the map like, you could open them in GIMP. And now remember, Control A. Now PNG is the only one that can do that's why you don't save the counters as JPEGs. And it looks like I got that too close to the bottom. But, that's a new one for me. I didn't know it had a keep command. Let's do Control Z. Okay. It was copying what was on there. So I'm in here. I'm going to do Control A, Control C. Let's see if that worked. Yeah, there we go. Ooh. I don't like how close that is. I may go back and look at these and see if I can probably make them 110. So you see the process, but I'm probably going to have to go back here and make these 110. I was looking at this one. So, and you can, if you're good, you can come back here. I'm never really good at this. If you click down by the corner, you can lose it. Well, I just lost it, so I'd have to build it again, and this time let's go for 110. Yeah. Not 110, let's go for 105. I'm looking at the bottom here on the bar. I have a trackball. Now, if this becomes too hard, zoom it in. It'll still be the same size. Like this is becoming almost impossible. Sometimes you gotta look at this thing to see what you're doing. There we go, I got 105, I got lucky. Quickly shift it back to move so you don't inadvertently click anywhere and make it go away. See, and then I can look, I think it was one of these. Hold down the shift key, makes it go faster. Yeah, see now I'm getting, it's the printing. See how the printing, the numbers are real low? Sometimes getting a graphic from the publisher without the cut lines is helpful too. It's not perfect, but then I can go Control C, Control V, E. And now I can save it and prep it and do etc. So that's the counter. So we've seen the counters, the map. The last thing is the chart, and the chart's pretty straightforward. I'll just show you real quick. Now, you may manually scan them. You may do however you get the charts. Pictures, JPEGs. In the end, you want to convert the charts to JPEG format to pull into, at least that's what I do, to pull into VASSAL here. So let's move back up here, and I do have the charts. Now in this case I got the charts on a PDF. I scanned them in, and I decided to scan them on all at once. So there's two ways I could do this. Number one, I could do this and say open with GIMP, or go to GIMP and open it. Now here you're going to see there's more than one. I've tried pulling them all in at once and it gives varying results, so usually I just pick one. It remembered 200. That's okay. And now I've got it in here. Now the problem is you're going to have to do some scaling if you want to then export this out. But it looks good. But what I'd probably do, I don't even have to use GIMP for this. This is how I do it, just because I'm lazy. I wouldn't use GIMP. I would just open it up in Adobe. There it is. It's a little too big. Bring it down. Looks good on the screen. This is my 1980 by 1020 screen. Not whatever 200%, 150%. Is it 100%? So this gives me an idea of what's going to fit on your typical screen. And this is probably going to end up being a map because I have to put counters on it to move across here. Where this will end up being a chart. But what I use in Windows at least, and I guess Mac has a parallel, is I mean, I guess I could export this. Let me see. I've never tried it. Export to... Oh, yeah, you can. There you go. Get it like you want and export it to a JPEG or a PNG, depending on what you want. So you can do this. Got it to look the way you want, so let's try that. I'll just call this... I always put CHT in the front. It's kind of a programming thing. This is a CRT. And let's see what we get. Boom. And now if I go to there, let's see. Well, I thought I exported it somewhere. This is always crazy when you can't figure out where you exported something. Let's try it again. Doesn't even list it there. Export to image, JPEG. Okay, this is a default. That's weird. I don't know what I did wrong here. So we'll call it CHT CRT. And that should have done it. Oh, guess I did something wrong. I think it exported the whole thing. That's interesting. Let's see what that looks like. Well, here you go. I'm experimenting with new things here. Still don't see it. Maybe it's here. It's not here. Well, something freaky's going on here. I thought I'd put it to the right place. Nope. Okay. Well, the other thing I do, you can play with that, is I use a tool in Windows called Snippet. The snipping tool. Just hit your Windows button, type snip. I say new. And what this cool snipping tool does is snips it. And now I have to figure out where the snipping tool went. There it is. And that looks good. And that's what it's going to look like. And all I do then is I just save it. And, oops, doing some other stuff here. And let's see this. So here I am in images, saving as a JPEG. I don't know where that other file was going. That's interesting. But CHT underscore, this is why I use the snipping tool maybe, CRT. Okay. Now I should have the chart I want. Please be there. Finally. Okay. And I'd go through and I'd just snip each one. It's kind of not elegant, but it works. There you go. Then I'd look at this and say, can I read that? Yep. A little blurry here. I could go back and do it again, but now I've got my chart. So once I've got the chart up, I should have everything now for this. Once I've done the charts, I mean, in the end I'm going to have, let's see, I'll probably need a folder for the Germans, and then I'll need a folder for the Italians. Is it E or A? I don't know. And then one for the markers. Okay. I don't know where, oh, here's where I ended up putting the map, so I'll probably move that here. There we go. So I put all my images in one place. So this is a lot of the work of building a VASSAL module. Getting the counters, the map, the charts. That's the big three. And sizing them properly for what you want. Okay? And dressing it up. So, anyway, I've got 50 minutes here. I keep making these long videos. But if you're interested in VASSAL modules, building them, that's step one. Please put something in the comments below if you made it this far. And, if you're interested in step two. Step two now is going to be, now that I have all the materials, is to actually build the VASSAL mod. And again, the grunt work for that is going to be creating the counters, depending on how many they are. Now, people who really know VASSAL, there's ways to have a template background and then add the numbers and do all that. I've just brute forced and made the counters. So that'll be next step if there's interest here. So I'll end it here. I've gone way long again. Thanks for listening if you're this far. If you liked, click like. Comments appreciated. If you're interested in the build part, I'll probably make it anyhow, but let me know, and I'll see you at the next recording. Thanks for watching.